Come closer. The hollow has something for you tonight. Mist rests on the floor like a folded shawl. The kind you wear when the house forgets its edges. My voice slips between the boards. Like a moth with a soft purpose. You are here. That is enough. You need not be brave. Only quiet. Only curious. There will be a small light. There will be a name we will not say. And there will be sleep. If sleep agrees to take your hand, if your breath slows, and the dark feels safe, follow my voice. And subscribe if you want to hear what the shadows will tell. Next time, tell me where you listen from city and country. A pin of light on our map of Harsh. Well, I may whisper thanks toward your window. Now dim the lights. Perhaps light a candle. And drift with me into the story. The small light arrives first. On your step at the quietest hour. The seam the world uses to turn its pillow. A brass lantern, kind and dull. It's glass-veined by two patient cracks. A thin red thread tied where handles meet. There is a card, once cream, now the color of old bowls, pressed with a single glyph. It looks like a moth folded into itself, or a river curling to meet a secret. When you breathe over it, the glass fogs. From the inside, though the lantern is closed, and in that fog the glyph brightens, you bring it in, because quiet things are invitations. On the table the lantern waits, its handle warm, as if a hand stepped away only a moment ago. In the hush there is another hush, a bell wrapped in wool, still ringing, where it cannot be heard. The card carries a second smudge. Ash perhaps, sleep perhaps. Your thumb fits the print too well, as though you set it there tonight, or long before. A ghost of a word clings to the margin, more the shape your mouth makes before speech. Your tongue recognizes the angle, the first step of a staircase you have not climbed. And even that knowing feels like stepping on something soft that should not be stepped upon. You exhale. A filament trembles where there is no flame. A silver hair of almost fire. And your breath does not return to you. It hovers. It circles. It chooses the lantern as its room. Whispers collect. There the way-do chooses web. Not words yet. Only the thought of wind thinking about your mouth. Far off, a bell realizes you are listening and grows careful. The floorboard under your left heel remembers an old footstep and offers it back, gently. On the window, a chalk mark you do not recall drawing waits, like a small white moon. You look away. Then it is lower, a finger's width, perhaps less. You decide you are mistaken, and the mark agrees, trying to be still. You touch the red thread, neither rough nor smooth, as if it has worn away the idea of texture. It hums, a winter bee sound, settling in your teeth, your grandmother's voice, or a voice borrowing her careful rhythm. Rustles from the pantry air. Never speak that name out loud. Never invite a mouth to become a door. The warning is soft, rain advisi. Eng roofs to be roofs, you. Nod to the room, because politeness is a lamp, and the night respects small lamps. You set the lantern near your candle. The candle straightens, as if answering attendance. The crack drinks the light, becomes a seam between maps, opening and closing with your breath. A chair draws itself a little from the table, yet no one sits. The lantern brightens without brightening, and in its pain your reflection lingers, but it reflects your pause instead. Names are ladders, some leaning into sky, some descending into wells. This one leans against your chest, inviting, dangerous only if climbed quickly. You breathe slower, and the whispers follow the rhythm your lungs teach them. The glyph refuses to stay one thing. When you do not look, it is a moth. When you glance, it is a river. When your lids droop, it becomes a door with no wall. Perhaps names are places where remembering becomes shape. You do not say it. You hold it like water cupped in your hands. Let a little spill. Let most remain outside. A crow glides the roof. No coal, only the air thinning. A black thread is simply there on the sill. You do not see it fall. You lay it beside the red thread. They behave as if already acquainted. They're not slow and calm. The room has a new corner. Not darker, only deeper. The depth of a breath. Held too long. From that corner, the thought of the name watches you. Perhaps it blinks. Perhaps your candle winks and returns. You speak to the corner without speaking. Promise to be careful. Promise to be slow. Ask permission to sleep with the lantern near. Something answers. Room or heart, a warmth, not heat, a settling. Not surrender. You feel the first seam of sleep open. Your body loosens like a rope remembering slack. If a listener rests under your table, it is only the night, only the name waiting to be unspoken. You carry the lantern to the doorway, set it where houses. Keep their shoehorns and apologies. There the whispers collect gently, like moths on the underside of leaves. The chalk mark waits, choosing not to move while you watch. Thank you. You think toward everything, toward the threads, toward the chair that moved, toward the fog that keeps your breath safe. Promise again. As promises should be made, with sleep coming. With the mind loose and kind, you will not speak the name. Not out loud. Not into your own mouth. You will hold it as a candle holds its own heat. If the name wishes to climb, you will offer a ladder of silence, a bed of patience, a window that faces the softer part of night. Rest now. The lantern is here. The hush is busy with gentle work, and you are allowed to be carried. Let the breath you gave float. In its glass room, let it learn the slow language of not saying. When morning wanders near, late and shy, it will find you at the edge of sleep, with a light that brightened without brightening. With a name not spoken, your mouth, a safe door, ready to dream. You step out with a lantern tucked against your ribs, its cracked glass keeping your breath. Like a small winter, you feed with patience. The street stills before you, porches lean shutters. Hold the gentle squint. The town pretends it just woke and must remember silence first. You walk the way, one moves in a place of vows. Heel then toe, breath then thought, the glyph from the card drifting behind your eyes moth. River, door. At the first corner a stone trough holds sky. Twice, above, and again in water. But the seams cross different, east to west above, north to south below. A quiet contradiction you accept like two blankets layered the wrong way. A woman lifts a bucket, almost says your name, then closes her lips, a soft refusal, like catching a bee kindly and letting it think again. Here the mouth is a gate no one rattles. Not fear, not superstition, only care, as if words bruise and must be carried in cotton. The silence is an herb here, hung to dry under eaves, brewed in stairs, pressed into loaves with the heel of a palm. You keep the promise the pantry voice gave you never speak that name out loud. And the promise keeps you also, like a shawl remembering your shoulders, your chalk. Mark waits on your step, a right crescent. You look away to straighten the red thread. When you look back, the crescent sits lower, by a breath's width. You kneel, blow. It smears into a star, soft points, one pointing toward the lane, as if to show where gentleness should travel. You leave it, because sometimes a sign is kinder than an erasure. The square stirs without calling. Hands speak, eyes do the rest. At a charm stall bonefish hang on twine, little mouths in patient O's, river remembered in buttons. One has turned when you glance again, as though it swam an inch to listen. Your lantern answers with a stingless hum. Your ribs feel the music and agree to be the instrument. A lane of pear spills. Petals like folded notes. Your shoulder brushes a bough. Scent opens like a small bell. Green and early. Your mouth lifts to offer a greeting to the day. A safe syllable, but your tongue tingles. A nettle learning where you keep tenderness. You test a harmless vowel. The air leans closer. You test a consonant. The lantern warms warning. Through comfort and the crack seems a hair deeper. You smooth your throat with your palm, quieting the bird that wanted to fly from it. A door where a window used to be looks familiar, and not. Houses change here like water changes its shape in a glass. On the roof a crow folds its wings and listens to stone in your pocket. The black thread curls to a ring. The red thread ties itself into a neat knot, wine size. The small ceremony ends. Ring and knot relax, as if a promise has been notarized by the day itself. Back at your step. The chalk crescent is now at ankle height. Impossible unless someone knelt, or unless Chuck learns ivy. You draw a circle around the star. Then a second. Leave a tiny seam at the bottom, so fortune does not bruise. You rest the lantern by the threshold. Let the house breathe its weather. Your breath sleeping inside glass like a guest who needed a quiet room. An old neighbor pauses, his cane never taps. He lifts. 2 fingers greeting without mouth and points to the lantern, then to his chest. Yes, you nod. It keeps breath safe. It keeps the name outside. He exhales a small coin of relief and pockets it in the morning. The day warms. Knots relax. Your tongue wakes now and then, like a foot, prickling, reminding. You will not shape the sound, even in thought. You consider writing the glyph on your palm and closing your hand. Then remember hands are doors, and you leave them open for simpler air. By noon the square settles into spoon rhythm. A feast will come later. Forks tapping patterns remembered from before recipes were written. Paper lanterns are strung in the plane trees, sleeping moons waiting for dusk. Your own sits like a loyal animal on your step. Your wintering breath keeping its small climate obedient. You nap in a chair inside the threshold, between house and street, between shade and its cousin. Somewhere in the drift you hear chalk moving. Library slow, courteous, you open your eyes. Nothing moves. But a second ring surrounds the first, thin as a hair, exact as a vow. Who? You think, then let even that question soften. Napping is better than answers. You lift your lantern. It has weight enough to teach. Not speaking is also speaking, when done with care. Your star holds. The 2 circles hold. The small seam remains open like a polite gate. Down the lane you go, tasting the air, without biting it, letting your mouth become the shape of listening. At the corner you pass the charm stall again. Do not see the fish turn once more, and be still. Do not see the crow tug a thread to the steeple and tie it to a bell that prefers not to ring. You only feel your feet learning a softer alphabet, closed mouths, open hands, gentler roads. Behind you the window keeps your reflection a heartbeat longer than the body that cast it. As if the house has begun practicing how to keep you safe by keeping your echo home when you wander. You stop to look back at the rings. A calm tide drawn with chalk. Promise to refresh them at dusk. Promise to feed the lanterns winter. Promise to keep the name folded where it cannot learn your weight. The town seems to nod. Gutters blink. Doors understand. Even dust agrees. The day thins. A hush like cloth laid over bright. Things, you go toward the square, where music will be quiet, where spoons will count time, where no mouth will dare the syllable that presses softly against your teeth from the inside. You breathe in, breathe out, let the pressure fade, let the vow grow its own roots. And walking there, with evening knitting itself, with pears breathing green, with bonefish pretending to sleep, with a crow practicing silence on a steeple string, you decide to keep your tongue as empty as a clean bowl. Your breath as slow as lantern weather, your thoughts as gentle as chalk, and your name as all names tonight left tenderly unsaid. You find the archive, where the river forgets its name, and the road pretends to be a hallway. Dusk laying cool palms against the windows, your lantern rides your ribs. Your breath wintering in the cracked glass, a door without a sign waits. It's not polished by careful indecision. You touch it. It opens halfway by itself. The other half asks to be earned. Inside, linen and rain. A sweetness like ink that chose sleep, shelves leaning toward one another. A shawl greets you first, then the woman inside it, eyes deep as patient wells. No names spoken here. Her mouth shapes without sound, and the rule settles over you like a calm shawl. She offers a silver bell on a ribbon, small, patient. She lifts it, and the air lowers its voice. Even dust rests its wings. You walk between tall backs and binding scars. Some books wrapped as if cooling fever, others bare as knuckles. She stops at a table, a book open to a page the color of fog, not blank, not written. A pale scar where letters lived and left. Her palm rests on the paper. The page exhales. A sentence rises, unbuttons, dissolves into almost syllables, then hushes again. Erased, she breathes. Some names request forgetting. Some burn the mouth from within. Here, we teach them to lie down kindly. In the margin, a faint graphite curve lingers, familiar. The first bend of your own name, your tongue cools. The lantern answers with a winter flicker. May a name be safely undone. You ask without pushing the air. Sometimes her eyes answer. When a name builds a room the house cannot hold, she turns a leaf. The silence of paper is a kindness. Your tongue behaves, still as a folded, wing pequill of ash lies in a bowl. No ink, only the memory of writing. When you glance away, it has traveled a finger's width toward the open page. Hope scooting its chair. A moth visits the bell. The ribbon trembles, the bell chooses not to ring, sparing the room a jerk from dream to wake. On a high shelf, a jar of salt sleeps under wax. Within it a charm woven of red and black thread, winter sealed for later. Keeping is a craft, her quiet says. She slides a narrow drawer. Bookmarks of pale wood wait in rows, each etched with a glyph that will not sit still. Moth, river, door, the same until touched, then suddenly particular. Take one, her hand suggests. Teach your book how to forget in safe directions. You choose a grain that feels like the seam in your lantern. It warms, cools, accepts the pulse in your thumb. She leads you to the oldest table, with the color of rain, taught to sit still. In its center a groove holds a line of salt, so thin it looks drawn. Here, her breath shapes. Set your lantern. You place it within the white thread. Your captured breath turns once like a sleeper, finding the cool of the pillow. The crack glimmers. The pocket glyph warms too. Meet it. She lifts the bell. Lets it breathe. The words in the room close their eyes. Noises wait outside like shoes at the door. Now, remember the name. You will not say. Think only the curve behind the sound. Keep it behind the heart where an inward window lies. Let the page watch. You hesitate, because thinking is also a mouth. Yet the bell is kind. The salt a small shore, the lantern a harbor that trusts you. You think the first bend of it, not the sound, never the sound. And the page nearest fogs like a winter pane. A faint line appears, then fades, a ruse that chooses not to remain. Good. Her gaze tells you, release can be written. Without writing, she opens another book. Cloth the color of sea water at night. The touch of it makes a door become a window for one soft breath. Thresholds enjoy their play. Inside, proper names emptied of furniture, streets without. Addresses, titles missing their actors, alphabets that left their shoes by the bed and wandered elsewhere. Your finger finds a margin. There is the curve, you know, by muscle memory. Like the path from bed to kettle in a room you could cross eyes closed. Do not fear, she murmurs by not moving. Fear sharpens. What should be softened? Fear names. What wanted to be filled? You exhale. A ribbon of your breath climbs from the lantern, just enough to lean and listen. The crack stops deepening. Content with the width of its secret. She smiles like a window after rain, closes the book, slides it onto a stack of sleepers. The ash quill rests at the bowl's lip. Work finished without a mark, a modest craft. She guides you toward the shadowed door, the bell cool in her palm, the ribbon like evening on stone. Under the lintel a chalk crescent you did not draw waits. Your own mark at home must be answering. 2 moons speaking across the town. Twilight smooths edges where it can reach. Your lantern anchors to your ribs. You look back once. The archivist becomes a shawl by a window. Then only a window. Then only the certainty that someone is tucking words into sleep with careful hands The bell does not ring, yet you hear it in the small room behind your heart, where inward windows learn their weather. You walk home slower than evening. The bookmark warms at your pulse. The vow is awake and calm, each step writes. A line the road agrees to forget the moment your heel lifts. At your threshold the chalk rings wait. 2 circles, a seam left open. The star within still points toward gentleness. You set the lantern where the door can watch over it. Your breath goes on wintering. Peace like a shawl over a wakeful chair. Night gathers its skirts. Without hurry, you sit in the threshold, the grain in your bookmark remembering a forest you never saw. Your eyelids learn the weight that invites sleep nearer. The archivist's hush travels the lanes. Books lie down like animals unafraid. You do not speak the name. You keep the first curve folded like a letter unmailed. Not refusal, only timing, only care. When the last light chooses to rest, you breathe once for yourself and once for the lantern. Let both breaths match. Let the house understand. Let the night understand. And let the vow carry you the rest of the way toward sleep. Night lowers itself like a shawl that knows your shoulders. Gentle, remembering your shape, you sit at the threshold. Chalk rings faint as twin moons. A small seam left open where fortune may breathe. The lantern waits within its white shore of salt, your wintered breath turning in the cracked glass. Steady, grateful. The archivist's hush still lines your ribs. Somewhere a bell decides not to ring. In a drawer you find a travel mirror you do not remember owning. A narrow oval, bound with braided thread red and black. When your breath nears the glass, the mirror hums. A moth in a wooden eave, a river under floorboards. Not music, more permission. The throat of a door asking to become a window. You tilt it. The hallway in its face is longer than the hallway behind you. A gentle generosity of distance. Fog gathers inside the glass, as though someone breathed. And never left, lines appear, almost letters, curving toward the glyph moth. River, door and then away. You whisper nothing. Still the shapes join, suggesting the feeling of a name without waking the name itself. You raise the lantern. The filament of almost fire steadies. The crack glows. The mirror hum. And the lantern's winter choose one note and rest there. Across the room the window inhales. Curtains laugh toward you with a small intake of night. In the mirror a narrow door stands, where the window should be thin as a skipped heartbeat. River stone gray. The keyhole has the posture of a first syllable. Your tongue remembers. Not to speak. You do not step nearer yet. Chairs settle. Book spines find posture. Pears outside release a bell of scent and let it sleep on the sill. You tilt the mirror. The door tilts too, while the real window holds its ordinary face. A crow sails past the glass. In the mirror, it becomes a drawn black thread, tugged toward the idea of a bell. Your captured breath turns inside the lantern, as if eavesdropping, refusing to frost the real window. The pantry warning hums in your bones never speak that name, and you wonder whether a door ever asks to become a mouth you sit, because questions are chairs. For the night to rest in, the hum shelters in your teeth. Your jaw slackens like shore at ebb. The fobbed writing climbs its own ladder. One rung, another. A curve resembles the first bend of your own name. Not written, only implied. You exhale. The lantern accepts. Your breath traces the crack and finds its way back to quiet. In the mirror, the door narrows, widens, then pretends to be a window. You set the mirror on the sill, where the chalk moons can keep watch. The inner star seems to aim. Inward now, toward the small room behind the heart, where inward windows keep weather. When you glance aside, the star has an extra point. When you look again, the old shape returns. Yet your memory keeps both. Your fingers find black thread, red. Thread together, they make a loop that suits 3 fingers. You belt the mirror with a loop, a boundary, a courtesy. You test the not name as posture only. The key waiting in the palm, never turning. Letters knit into a single shape you cannot carry, like trying to cup a shadow. The narrow door unlatches the width of one inhale. Beyond it lives more room and more night. A depth the color of a word you have not tasted. You let stepping imagine itself and stop there. The floorboards reward restraint with their gentlest creak. The window lays a thin layer of night over its own glass, thanking you for letting it be window tonight. Your reflection lingers in the mirror when you turn away. A tender disobedience that keeps you company. It lifts a finger, writes a line of frost that melts into breath. A promise that your room will be winter only on your command. You think of the archivist's salt thread, of books where names lie down, of the bell whose silence braided the air. You think of the hush feast to come, forks tapping old measures, an empty chair sliding itself back to make room for the unseen. The hum matches your lungs, a chorus with no audience. Complete anyway. You turn the mirror face down, leather to the room. The humming continues, now rooted in the sill. You refresh the chalk, a thin circle inside the first, the seam still mercifully open. When you face the glass again, moth becomes river, becomes door. One mass, one string. You tilt the lantern, release a thread of winter toward the oval. The fog inside writes only a line, not a letter. The suggestion of a path that prefers to carry rather than test. You nod to window, crow, pears, to everything that agreed to be gentle. The door waits, and waiting is also wisdom. You choose to wait with it. A duet of patience. Your tongue rests, unlearning urgency, cradling first syllables like eggs unhatched. Evening makes small agreements with your bones. You set the mirror flat. The humming becomes a seam in the room's fabric. You tell the lantern you will sleep soon. It bows its invisible flame. Names are ladders. You are a house. The mouth is a wall you choose not to lean against tonight. Breathe in, breathe out, longer, slower. In the mirror, the door thins to memory, then to rumor, then to imagining. Your reflection returns to its gentle chore, have a heartbeat late, forgiving the night its habits. Chalk moons blush and dim, content to be simple circles again. You tuck the mirror beneath your shawl on the chair, a pocket cave, a cradle for the leftover hum. Before you teach your eyes the soft weight of sleep, you thank the window that wished to be a door, not out loud, only in the way roofs thank rain, by keeping, and the way pears thank wind by offering. Scent, you renew the vow never to let the name stand up inside your mouth. Never to build stairs where a shore is kinder. The hum becomes a distant shore of bees, then the idea of bees, then quiet. And in that quiet the night writes inside your chest rest now. Keep the breath safe. Let the door be a window. Let the window be the night. I will watch while you drift. Morning is a pale bell that refuses to strike, only stands in the air, giving shape to quiet without waking it. You carry the lantern in the crook of your arm, wintered breath steady within the cracked glass, the red and black threads, soft against your wrist. The chalk rings on your threshold are thin moons now. Dew has kissed them. The seam you left open gleams like a hinge. You breathe through it. Let the house hold your echo, and step into the lane that leads toward the old well. No one names the well. Here the town prefers gestures to syllables. An elder leaves a sprig of rosemary on its lip. Today, the herb wears 3 damp pearls. A little crown for a mouth that never speaks. Wine brings the smell of stone, and cool and the sleep of water, even though the well is dry. Even though the bucket lifts dust, a line of willow dolls hangs from the crossbeam, jointed with thread and thin pebbles. They dangle like small listeners. Kindly, patient, you touch the rope. It hums with the memory of weight. Your palm closes around the knot, and the knot warms, like something glad to be asked. Below, the mouth of the well hangs its own sky, darker, older. You do not peer too long. You know how. Eyes slip on edges when edges look back. Instead, you tie the lantern's handle to the bucket's iron. The red and black threads become a neat braid, a courtesy between tools. Breath slow, you lower the lantern, hand over hand, rope whispering, bucket turning like the moon if the moon were copper. The glass glows without brightening. Your winter gleams like a kept oath. Stone shows its veins, old scrapes. Initials that turned shy and wore away. A pressed flower that forgot its color and kept only its outline. A map for moths. The rope pays out. Soft weight. Patient circles. Your shoulders counting a rhythm that feels older than you. Older than the road that learned to be a hallway. Halfway down, you pause. The lantern's hum meets. The well's quiet, and both agree to be one thing. You listen for water that isn't there, for the sound of breath returning from stone. Only your heart answers. A librarian shushing herself. You lower again. The bucket kisses the dry bottom. Dust rises like old prayer and settles where it meant to settle. Hello, you do not say. Instead, you exhale toward the mouth. Let the breath the lantern hasn't kept join the air. Light as a moth's foot, the well accepts. Your cheeks cool, your chest loosens. And then from the darkness, a syllable climbs. Not yours, not the one, but its shadow. The slope behind the sound. Your tongue stirs, then remembers the vow and goes still. The pantry warning, wearing a new shawl. Never speak that name out loud. You wait, because echoes teach that patience can be length. The invisible bell of the town grows quieter still. Shutters blink. Dust prays. The crows forget to practice. Another fragment rises, softer, like a seed trying the surface with a root. Then nothing, the kind of nothing that is a door, not a wall. You tug the rope once, just enough to ask if the lantern wishes to come home. It answers, with a thread of warmth through your palm. Stay a breath longer. You lean your ear to the circle of stone. Inside the glass your captured breath turns, and you feel the turn inside your ribs too. A mirrored animal finding a cooler place. On its nest, a thought arrives, though you did not send for it. Perhaps names sleep at the bottom of dry things. Perhaps thirst keeps watch where water would be loud. You do not test the thought with your mouth. Thought is also a mouth. You keep it behind the heart, where the window lives, looking outward. And inward at the same moment, the rope. Seems longer than when you began, a tender wrongness, like a sleeve that grew as your arm reached. You measure with your hands, this much, then this much. The well should be shallow. And yet the lantern glows farther than shallow. Knows the willow dolls tilt. The pebbles inside them click. The smallest one lifts, as if a breeze visited only its thread. You glance up. The air above the well is ordinary, blue and thin and moving. The pebble settles. Still you feel watched kindly from below. You speak with breath only. An unvoiced greeting shaped in your mouth and offered down the throat. Of stone, the echo returns a name you didn't say. A name that knows the taste of winter and the curve of your first syllable without ever touching it. Your belly cools, not fear, only the skin learning the size of listening. You think of the archivist, the bell on its ribbon, the pages that grew fog and forgot kindly. You let the echo pass through. You like a low cloud. Let it water a field you do not farm. When you look into the well, the circle seems nearer, then farther, then agreeably near again, the way stars move when you try not to look straight. Perhaps depth is a polite liar. You think, or a patient translator. You tug the rope twice. The bucket lifts a finger's width, stops, as if asked by a hand you cannot see. Not yet something suggests. And you honor suggestion, because houses stand longer where suggestions are heard. You lower your thoughts instead. How to hold a not name. How to keep a door a window. How to offer breath without renting your mouth to echoes. You remember the chalk rings. The seam left open, the star that pointed toward gentleness. With your free hand, you draw a slow circle in dust on the coping. Then another inside it. Leave a seam unclosed, and press the tip of a finger at the center. A star with tired points. A compass for a town that prefers to walk softly. From the throat of stone comes a second echo, like the first, only nearer. A third, wearing frost for teeth, and sleep for lungs. Then a hush, the kind with sighs, the kind with furniture, and closed curtains, and a mirror that hums by itself. You begin to lift, hand over hand, weight respectful. The rope tells your palms its old stories. Halfway, the fibers cool, a damp that isn't wet, a weather from places that would rather stay rumor. The willow dolls turn their wooden faces. They have no eyes, yet they look, and you are comforted by their attention. At the lip, the lantern arrives. Beginner dawn inside the glass, your winter breath nodding to be back on your side of the circle. You set it on the stone. The crack gleams. The braid of threads loosens on its own, a courteous endoing. You wait for the echo to try your mouth again. It does not. Perhaps it learned the house you keep names in, and chooses not to knock. A coin lies in the dust, tarnished, a year blurred. You do not remember placing it, but it sits where your finger drew the center star, as if gratitude paid itself while you were listening. You tuck it beneath the lantern, a small pact, a weight to keep winter from wandering. When you stand, the lane is longer than lanes are, and shorter, both threaded with the hush of unplayed bells and spoons that will count the evening. You breathe once into your hand, give your palm. To the lantern, the breath goes. Home the winter steadies. A crow drops a black thread that lands on the coping without a sound. You add it to the red. Their knot is already in the mood to be tied. You tie them 3 turns, a sailor's courtesy learned from a dream you have not had yet. Before you leave, you lean over the well. Again, not to look, only to thank. Thank you for holding echoes where they are gentle. Thank you for returning what was not said in safe shapes. Stone accepts with the patience of stone, a craft perfected by being. The rope hangs with less longing. Your hands are lined with fine dust that smells like books. The archivist would smile if she saw your palms. You walk back, slow as the shadow of a cloud, deciding where to nap. Lantern light like breath held and then released at the crossroads. You glimpse the travel mirror beneath your shawlin. The basket, it hums once, faint, like a friend nodding from another room. The door that wished to be a window has returned to being a window. You are glad for it. Houses tire when they must be what they are not. Your step, your threshold, your chalk moons, still there. The seam open, the star patient. You refresh the white with a quiet hand. Leave the seam. Set the lantern within. Your wintered breath content to be home. Somewhere in the town, the hush feast prepares its table, forks rehearsing their soft ritual against porcelain. An empty chair remembering, who will not sit, you will go. When the sky turns between colors, you will carry silence the way. A bowl carries milk, without spilling, without naming the milk. For now, you rest your palms on the wormwood of the door. Thank the grain, thank the hinges, thank the lamp of breath that refuses to become flame. The echo of the name you did not speak lingers, like a perfume with no flower. You let it thin. You let it learn to be weather. Your mouth remains a safe door. Your tongue a ribbon, folded and sleeping. Your heart a room with an inward window, where winter and lantern and vow watch the street together. Breathe. Once. Again. Slower. If the rope in the well has grown or shrunk, let it be a story told by stone too. No one. If the dolls tilt, let them. Watchers must practice watching. If the echo wants to climb, it will learn the stairs are made of kindness and delay, none of which can be spoken, all of which can be kept. You draw the curtain of yourself a little, leaving a seam, so fortune will not bruise. And you sit in the threshold, soft as chalk, quiet as salt, keeping the name folded, letting the day fold you, waiting for evening to ask gently for the next breath you are willing to lend. Evening unfolds its careful tablecloth across the square, linen made of dusk, hemmed with slow bells that never quite ring. You carry your lantern like a bowl of winter. Its crack a thin river. Your breath sleeping inside it and learning. The grammar of hush. Spoons count a gentle measure against porcelain. Forks reply with patient tapping. A language older than recipes and newer than morning. Paper lanterns wake one by one. In the plane trees, moons with soft strings, each holding a small promise not to widen the night too quickly. The town gathers without saying gathering. Hands speak, shoulders nod. Eyes pour kindness from cup to cup. Empty bowls wait. Mouths of clay that do not ask to be filled, only to be held. At the center, a long table grows from the floorboards of the square, as if would remembered a forest and became generous. Again, bone charms dangle from a clothesline of red and black thread. Fish and birds and little doors, they sway where no breeze shows itself. You take a seat that might have been waiting specifically for your weight. Beside you, an unoccupied chair pulls back a finger's width, then another, as if the guest is on their way. From a room made only of breath, no one startles. The race is a town that chooses courtesy over questions. A linen napkin folds itself into a boat, then thinks better and settles as a hill. You smooth it, grateful for its attempt at travel. A woman with willow doll earrings presses a spoon to the rim of your bowl. The sound is a ripple with edges smooth. She points at your lantern, nods toward the far end, where an old basin waits. Still water. A thin shore of salt around its lip. Later, her hands say, "When the name becomes restless, give it this mirror and let it see itself forgetting." You bow your gratitude with your mouth closed. Gratitude is a tongue that does not need teeth. Steam rises from a kettle that does not boil. It shapes letters you almost know. Moth, river, door. Then unknows them kindly somewhere. A bell forgets its clapper and becomes simply circle. The travel mirror in your shawl hums, once shy as a cricket in winter, then rests. You hold the bowl with both hands and feel it listening to your pulse. Forks begin their ritual, the softest tapping, a pattern older than prayer and lazier than rain. You follow without understanding, a lesson taught by wrists. Across the table, a child cups air and hands it to the unoccupied chair. The chair inches forward, relieved to be noticed. Bone charms mark the rhythm by swaying in time. Shadows of fish crossing the table without water or hurry. You look down, see your reflection in the glossy bowl later than your face. By half a breath, when you look up, the square is larger by 2 houses to the left, smaller by 1 to the right. An arithmetic-only evening knows. The crows on the steeple practice silence, tying quiet to the bell with invisible thread. Your chalk moons at home feel present here, as if circles can leave the ground and travel in the ankles of their maker. A platter goes by layered, with slices of nothing. The aroma is of pears. Deciding to become memory, you take a slice of memory and chew until the edges become air. The taste is green and patient, Someone pours you water that remembers a river but refuses to rush. You drink, and in the bottom of the cuppa, stir forms 5 points, then 6, then the old 5 again. A certainty practicing flexibility. The unoccupied chair slides back once more. Now with the tender authority of a host, a place setting appears that wasn't there. Knife or spoon, a folded card. With no writing, you feel a cool reach toward your mouth, not intrusion. Only the air asking if you will keep your vow even during feasting. You nod, tongue quiet, breath slow, lantern warm at your ribs like a hearth. Deciding to remain small, the basin of still water waits at the end of the table. Circles of salt nested around it, a chalksy in miniature. Some bring their lanterns and let their breaths compare winters. None speak, none write. The letters stay folded within their bones. You rise when the child points to you. Your turn shaped by 2 small hands and a trust you do not want to bruise. Your steps make no sound. The square listens by leaning near a fraction. A kindness shared by streets with experience. At the basin, you tilt your lantern open. Its mouth as one opens a window, not a door. Your wintered breath spills a little. Not enough for weather, just enough for remembering. The water accepts. The surface tightens and smooths. A thought. Learning posture. For an instant, a name almost stands beneath the skin, then lies down again, as cats do when the lap unnests without refusing. A reed of light appears across the water, which is strange. Because there is no sun in that direction, you realize it is the travel mirror, humming inside your shawl, making a bridge between reflections. You do not remove it. Bridges can exist without feet. Instead, you breathe in, breathe out. Let the reed narrow to a thread, and then to an idea. That will be there if needed. Someone passes with a tray of salt cakes, so thin you see the night through them. You take one, break it. The pieces become 2 little waning moons. You place them on either side of the basin, like ears, and feel the water listening more. Carefully, the child giggles without sound, a silver bubble, and covers their mouth as if catching a bird gently. Forks slowed, spoons follow. The square rests between measures. Your lantern recovers its winter, a soft pulse. Promise kept. From the far end, the unoccupied chair pulls in again, decides to be modest for now. The guest content to attend without rival. Bone charms still, a kind of bow. Fish and birds and little doors accepting intermission. You sit again. Bowl empty in the meaningful way empty can be. You run a finger around the rim, and your finger comes away with a ring of cool. Water's ghost agreeing to remain polite. Across from you, a man unthreads a red and black bracelet and passes the threads to his neighbors. The line becomes a path across many wrists. When it reaches you, the knot knows your fingers and ties itself, practicing a sailor's memory. It learned this morning at the well. In the corner a doorway flickers, where there has only ever been a wall. You do not point. This is not that kind of town. You watch without staring. The doorway considers the responsibilities of doorness, then returns to being wall. As a favor to everyone, only the mirror in your shawl notices differently. Rising and falling like a sleeping animal turning once, steam from the kettle arranges. Itself as a sentence you nearly understand, then dissolves into lantern moths that land on the bone charms. Each charm receives one and glows without light. You think of the archivist, of books that forget kindly, of bells that choose silence over correctness. Your mouth remains a safe door. You choose not to test its hinges. Not here. Not anywhere voices have set a table for listening. The woman with willow doll earrings returns. Presses her spoon to your bowl again. Her eyes ask if your name is behaving. If the vow has grown gentle roots, you offer a nod and your bowl. She draws a circle of salt within it, then leaves a seam. Always a seam. Fortune dislikes cages. She signs with her hands. You sign your agreement with breath. The feast does not end. It thins like mist deciding to be filled. People stand and do not leave. They drift nearer and do not speak. Community that prefers proximity to announcement. A crow passes overhead with its beak empty. A kindness. Choosing not to carry threads tonight, your lantern weighs less, or your arm has learned its weight. Either is fine, either is the sort of ambiguity that behaves like mercy. You stay until the square forgets to be a square, and remembers it was a meadow once. Grass rises in your mind where cobbles are, and the table becomes a fallen log without splinters. The unoccupied chair becomes a stump, then a shadow, then a certainty that company can be real without feet. You breathe in the changed air. Except the meadow is square again when you exhale. Except both. The town loves both. So you will too. When you finally step away, you touch the basin's rim. Cool and sleeping. You thank the water for not speaking, for showing the name to itself only enough to become softer. You thank the forks for their measure, the spoons for counting, the bone charms for their patient fish. You thank the empty bowls for teaching fullness through emptiness, a lesson your mouth has needed. The chalk moons at your threshold wait. You know it without seeing. The seam is still open. The star will point. Where gentleness goes next, you will refresh the white and set the lantern within. You will keep the winter bright without brightness. And when the next soundless feast arrives, you will come again. Carry your bowl, carry your vow, carry the name not spoken, like a sleeping seed in your sleeve. Tonight, let your tongue be a folded ribbon. Let your breath be a lantern weather. Let knives and forks keep time for your heart. Let doors remember windows. Let the guest who did not arrive feel welcomed anyway. And let the square become meadow, become square as many times as needed, until the night has taught you everything it can teach without saying a word. Dusk on threads into the longer dark. One stitch, another slow and kind. You refresh the chalk moons on your threshold and leave the seam open. The lantern settles against your ribs. Winter sleeping. In the cracked glass, red and black threads rest at your wrist like quiet snakes. You step onto the hill lane that pretends not to know your name. The first footprint is not yours, and yet it fits. It waits ahead in dust. As if your heel arrived early, you lift your boot and another print appears farther along. It walks backward toward you, returning a day you have not lived. You smile without sound. The night approves of courtesy. The sky is stitched wrong here. Constellations borrow each other's shawls. A crooked thread of stars plays river. A straight thread plays wish. You correct nothing. You are a guest in this sewing. Guests honor the seamstress by admiring the work instead of fixing it. The prints multiply. Heel first, toe last. Patient boats, rowing out of tomorrow. You set your foot beside one. The size matches, then doesn't. Larger by a breath, smaller by a memory. Changing with kindness. Perhaps you are walking toward a you who knows one more mercy. Perhaps toward a you who needs one more lesson. Both acceptable. A crow arrives without voice. Wings slice the stillness into easier pieces. It opens its beak and releases quiet. A black syllable of nothing. From that syllable a thread falls and crosses the path. You step over the line and feel it touch your heel. Curious, not dangerous. Your tongue trembles, then remembers the pantry warning. Never speak that name out loud. Never lend the door of your mouth. Your soles begin to pulse. Not with pain, with attention. The forbidden name lives there tonight in the arches. It knocks as pebbles knock, friendly, insistent, wanting to breathe. You could unlace your boots and let it rise, but boots are boundaries, and you are learning courtesy as craft. You take one backward step to honor the backward prints. The world adjusts its furniture to meet your experiment. Fences turn their faces. Hedges show their private thinking. Sides. A gate swings on a hinge that isn't there. Accommodating. Your lantern warms like a very small hearth with manners. Dust rights while you do not watch. Then hides its letter. Moth, river, door. The family resemblance of a shifting glyph. A milestone moves a thumb's width, answering a question your calf didn't ask. Nothing breaks the rules. The rules choose kindness before accuracy. You follow the backward prints to a fork in the lane, left toward an orchard that smells faintly like pears and bells, right toward a shore that does not exist, yet whispers anyway. Your ear believes. It hears water, then hears the lantern, breathing. It settles for that breath, as if it were tied. A bone charm hangs from a hawthorn twig. A tiny door without frame. It turns when you turn. A compass without north or scolding. You touch it and it stills. Relieved you did not make it choose. The rhythm in your feet becomes familiar. Feast tapping remembered softly. Heel then toe. Thou then thought, step after careful step. The prince retreat. Slower now. Courteous leaders holding the pace. This path prefers you unhurried and your mouth kept empty. It trusts your hands to carry the lantern without speaking flame. You tie red and black thread loosely once around your ankle. Not to bind, only to remind. A ribbon with a respectful gap. A sailor knot with an opening invites fortune, rather than trapping it. The pulse steadies. The name becomes the memory of a wave. You walk lighter. Souls, whispering nothing the night can quote. The hedgerow hiccups and shows a house that should not be. Shutters blink. A narrow door breathes. Then becomes hedge again. You do not chase strangeness. Strangeness prefers to keep its chores. You nod, and a leaf nods back. Pale side turn like a wink. When the hill levels, you find a gate. With no fence. On its post an iron nail. Waits, retired yet proud. You loop black thread on the nail. Then loop red beside it. They braid themselves, as if remembering mornings you have not earned. You wind the braid round your ankle, and lightly round the gate. A gentle tether, so you cannot walk faster than promises breathe. Wind moves through grass, like breath through linen left on rails. The sky lowers its hem and hides loose seams. From judgment, your mouth tastes pear and salt, and the sleep of old bells. It tastes ink that chose to drowse, and rosemary from a dry well. You are full without speaking. You are carried by being carried. The prince thin, fewer. Then only one. An offered hand of dust. It stops ahead, heel deep, toe shy, waiting to be tried. You place your foot inside. Forgiveness fits you like water. A small sound travels your bones, yes, frost without teeth. Yours and not. The syllable bows before the vow and asks to rest there. You face home, and the print becomes a partner. Rather than guide, together you walk, matching easy, respectful of the hill's breath. The sky corrects nothing, neither do you. Wrongness holds like a lullaby. A second moon lingers at the edge of sight and refuses proof. You turn and see only a chalk. Memory, 2 rings on far threshold. They glow the way patience glows when left alone to continue. The crow returns and carries nothing because your thoughts need no mending. It shadows your lamp and throws invisible thread over the lane. Stones do not envy clouds. The path calms its small jealousies. You thank the bird by thinking. Thanks, and it hears without fuss. Birds hear thoughts, if gratitude is quiet and unforced. At the crossroads you pause and let your soul settle to a hum. A signpost rotates a finger's width toward a cousin town with different weather. You let it. Directions are gentle suggestions rather than orders tonight. Your lantern brightens without brightening. Calm taught to remain calm. The dark asks questions. You answer with slower breath each time. Halfway home, the backward prints slip beside the forward ones. For a little while you step in both. A twin choreography, future and past. Keep time and forgive each small misstep. Then the backward ones fade. Maybe folding into your heels. Maybe walking ahead to make the doorway feel expected. You do not try to keep them. Kindness finishes leaving. When allowed, your house appears. Chalk moons visible from here, as if larger. The seam glows, modest as a breath showing where to place yours. You unwind the ankle tether and wind the threads on the nail. You will collect them later or earlier. Whichever story the road likes, your step takes your weight without complaint. The threshold forgives wandering. You set the lantern within the inner circle. Winter settles again. The travel mirror hums in your shawl. Glad no door demanded becoming. Windows keep windowness. Doors keep breath. The house receives you open. You kneel and blow chalk dust gently. Add 1 hair-thin ring. You leave the seam. Fortune dislikes cages even when drawn in. Chalk, your tongue rests high and soft. Teeth stand like quiet fence posts. In your souls, the name becomes slower weather. Nourishing fog. You lean your forehead to the door and feel it answer kindly. Sleep now. Walk later. The path will unravel and knit itself. Inside you hang your shawl, where shadows fold like patient clothes. You set the mirror face down and let the hum warm the boards. You turn the lantern so the crack looks inward to your hidden window. It gazes at the small room behind the heart and calms. Outside a gate with no fence keeps to threads as a favor. The night approves by forgetting to challenge you or test you. You stretch the length of 1 vow across your tongue, then hide it. You listen as your footprints finish arriving at the door politely. 1 last backward step folds into the first forward step of morning. The latch understands. The hinges breathe. The chalk moons dim. You are ready for sleep, not because you earned it, because it asked. Let your souls cool. Let your ribs Worm, keep the mouth a soft. Door. If the sky's stitches remain crooked by dawn, forgive them gently. You have learned to walk both ways without spilling your quiet. The name has learned it cannot borrow your breath without permission. Rest now, little traveler. Road and river and door will keep watch. The boarded house waits, where the lane forgets its name. You arrive without reason, only because the door remembers you. Shutters breathe shallowly. Boards hold their splinters like unsent letters. Your lantern's winter steadies. The crack glows with patient sleep. Chalk from your fingers leaves moons on the threshold again. You leave the seam open, because kindness needs a seam. Inside, jars line the hall like moths pretending. Harmless glass, each jar holds breath, pale weather cupped for careful later. Labels are threads, red whispers, black whispers, dates rubbed away. Your name is nowhere, yet your mouth tastes rosemary. Cold, the house smells like pages the rain almost entered yesterday. A cupboard closes itself slowly, as if finishing a sentence. You carry the lantern along, and each jar breathes back. Some breaths are winter, some are kitchens, some are rooms. One jar clouds when you think, clears when you forget. Its lid loosens a little, testing your valve for slack. You tighten the ring gently, and the glass sighs back. There is a table, salt poured thin as spider silk. On the table waits a ledger, blank but indented faintly. Finger trails reveal letters that once slept and moved on. You do not read them. You let them continue sleeping. At the far wall hangs a mirror. Narrow, oval humming. It shows your room, minus your shadow, which arrives late. Behind your reflection blurs a door where no wall stands. You blink, and the blurring rearranges itself into breath clouds. The jars answer with soft taps, like spoons remembering measures. Your lantern warms your ribs. Winter companion steady and small. You whisper nothing, but your mouth shapes gratitude toward wood. A jar near the hearth contains wind that never traveled. Another jar holds rainlight. A thin meadow folded carefully inside. Halfway down the shelf, a jar warms when you near. Your captured breath recognizes itself, like cousins exchanging shawls quietly. You remember the well, how echoes borrowed your careful shoulders. You remember the feast, how water looked at its forgetting. You touch the warm jar. Your name stirs without syllables. The lid loosens again. 3 heartbeats. A quiet request offered. A bone charm above it turns. A tiny door watching. The house waits for your manners, not your decisions tonight. You untie red and black threads. Measure 1 breath's length. You wind a loop around the jar, not binding blessing. You draw a salt ring, leave a seam. As always, the mirror hums louder, then quieter, like a thinking animal. In its face a jar appears, where your lantern stands. The room swivels gently, as if placed upon water tonight. You taste pears again, bells, ink that went to sleep. The jar's breath quickens, fog-writing curves you almost recall. Not letters, only the room behind your heart practicing weather. You consider lifting the lid, letting names exchange garments gently, but vows prefer patience. And patience wants company while waiting. You sit with the jar until the hum rounds down. A whisper moves behind the cupboard door you never opened. It sounds like your grandmother stitching. Thread passing teeth thoughtfully. Never speak. That name she taught, speak kindness instead faithfully. You let the whisper finish. It pauses and bows away. The ledger's indentations rise again, offering pages to your thoughts. You write nothing. Yet the page cools as if inked. Perhaps the house writes for you. With your restraint tonight, a window appears where only photographs once leaned. Smiling shyly, you approach, see street, then orchard, then a second staircase. Every step descends upward, obedient to neither map nor gravity. You close the window with your breath. It listens kindly. You return to the jar and offer words unspoken inward. They take shape as warmth, a shawl placed on air. The lid loosens once more, then tightens by itself politely. Exchange refused tonight. Your mouth nods. Relief tastes like pears. You thank the house. Its beams creak like knees dancing. A second jar flickers. Inside it sleeps a folded letter. Your name appears faintly. Not yours. Then both. Then none. You lift the jar. It weighs. Less than careful thinking. A memory knocks the lid. The knock belongs to winter. You set it down. Whisper nothing. The walls soften kindly. From the hearth a moth rises. Becomes river. Then door. It passes through you without touching. Leaves calm behind gently. The mirror shows you sleeping, though you are. Standing awake, your reflection breathes into a jar and waves goodnight slowly. You feel rested watching yourself, like rain contemplating roofs kindly. Time loosens its knot, readies it. Both knots hold gently. You mark the ledger margin with a soft circle signed inside the circle you write air, which writes you back. The cupboard opens slightly, reveals a jar labeled Borrowed Dawn. Inside swirls light that remembers you from before remembering began. You bow to it, and it bows to your breath. No exchange is asked, only a visiting, only courtesy tonight. You return to the warm jar. Feel your winter stir. You press your palm. Vow sleeping under the lifeline gently. The jar settles, as if reassured by your restraint again. You carry it to the table, set within. Salt shore, the seam remains open. Fortune's small door kept courteous always. You place the lantern beside. Winter nods to winter kindly. Both jars glow without brightening. Siblings refusing competition politely tonight. From the ceiling hangs a ribbon bell, wool-wrapped, thoughtful witness. It does not ring, yet everything hushes when asked nicely. You learn another craft, allowing names to grow sleepy here. You thank the jars by counting 4 in. 4 out after the 4th cycle. Walls exhale, floorboards answer kindly back. You lift your lantern again, winter willing to travel softly. You leave the warm jar here, safer than pockets tonight. A chalk crescent appears by the door. Unasked, blessing you. Your reflection carries a twin jar. You never touch directly. If you look away, it sets the jar down gently. When you look back, the jar becomes a window instead. The house approves. A soft draft knits your shawl straighter. You step outside slowly. Moon's chalked. On boards answer faintly. You close the door without latching, leaving courtesy breathing inside. On the stoop, the air tastes kinder. Pears, salt, hush. Your lantern's winter follows. Crack shining like a seam forgiven. You promise to return tomorrow, if tomorrow wishes company gently. For now you carry quiet home, and keep breathing wisely. The jars continue humming behind you, practicing their forgetting art. Night folds the house, and you, without demanding any names, you stand where the narrow door used to be rumor. The wall breathes, as if remembering threshold. Your lantern waits at your ribs. The crack a patient seam, your breath wintering in glass. Tonight you ask nothing loud, only this may a name be unsaid before it learns the rest of you. The travel mirror hums beneath your shawl, a moth that chose string. You set it on the sill, where wallpaper has paled to pears. Fog gathers without your breath, a lake thinking of frost. In the glass, the door appears river stone gray. Keyhole like the first bend of a syllable. You hold your tongue high and soft, teeth quiet fence posts, mouth a resting field. A breeze moves, where no window is the door exhales. Rosemary from the well, ink that slept, linen forgiving sun. It does not open. It widens the idea of opening. Something stands beyond, made of air, edges thin as the hush between spoon taps. When it smiles, the smile is frost polite. Teeth without bite and your heel cools, as if stepping into last winter. You do not step back. You bow without bending. Never speak that name out loud. The pantry warning walks your spine. You answer with breath only, a greeting along the floorboards, carried by dust that knows your step between you. and the door a line of salt draws itself. You add your pinch. Leave a seam always. A seaman, the air nods, where your eyes almost see it. Red and black threads slip from your wrist. Trail toward the salt, curious, shy remembering. Knots not yet tied. Say me and I will hold you. The frost mouths without sound. You shake your head. Refusal wrapped in gratitude. We could trade a memory. You think toward it. A ribbon you can spare. The door leans. The mirror wavers. Narrow, wide, window, door again. Indecision. To prove patience, you sit on the floor. Ankles crossed. Lantern beside the salt, with the crack turned inward, so your winter can watch. You place the mirror flat. The door remains inside. The floor feels one step deeper than your knees. From the rafters, a bone charm sways a tiny ladder with 5 rungs. It clicks though no draft moves. Ladders love both directions. Your heart chooses downward, into sleep, into forgetting that heals. You think of the archivist and her wool-wrapped bell, of the basin where water let names see themselves, and quiet, of the jars in the boarded house, the warm one that eased under your palm. I will trade a memory. You breathe no voice. And choose one small and safe. The day you tied your first shoe. The loop, the knot that held without hurting. True, but not a pillar. If it walks away, you still have feet. The path will still find you. Ere by the salt shimmers. Then rests. Offer it to the lantern first. The frost mouths. If winter keeps it, I will accept. You nod. Move the lantern so the crack receives the ribbon of thought. Frost blooms. Inside the glass, veined like a leaf. Your small memory folds there. A gap opens in you the size of a bough. Not pain, only room for breath you didn't know you wanted. You can still tie knots. Fingers remember, but that day dims. A room with its lamp low. Now the door tries speaking. Your name is missed. Vowels asleep. Consonants whispering from the next room. It does not enter your mouth. It asks to live at your threshold instead. You show it the chalk moons. In your mind, the open seam. The star pointing toward gentleness. Live there if you can be weather. Not furniture. You breathe fog for roots. Not frost for leaves. The keyhole relaxes. No longer a furs. T-syllable, more a cat's. Yawn willing to be window tonight. Red and black threads lift by themselves. Tie one lazy knot on the latch. A charm promising delayed speech. You stand. Knees give a considerate crack, like old boards. The lantern weighs less. As if the memory settled kindly into winter and became a room feather. In the mirror your reflection is late by 2 heartbeats, then nearly on time. When it meets your gaze, it raises a finger, continue harsh. What will you give me in return? The frost dims to ask. You offer a promise with slow roots. If ever I must speak even a part of you, I will SP. Eke into water, into salt, into glass, never into air, never toward another mouth. The air brightens without brightening. Somewhere a bell remembers and goes back to sleep. The door fades to deeper gray, as if distance put on a coat. Behind it there is room, or sky, or a page turning, because sleep turned it. You cannot tell. The frost smile becomes breath, then cool. Then only the idea of cool you store behind the heart, where inward windows keep weather. Now you know the name is shape only. A drawing your lungs can trace that your lips will never learn. You gather the mirror. It hums like a tired, satisfied bee. You sweep the salt with 2 fingers and leave the seam fortune needs its narrow gate. Threads fall from the lash and coil at your feet like snakes agreeing to nap. You tuck them into your shawl with the modest ceremony of putting away a necklace. Before you go, you thank the door for trying to be door without insisting. It answers by becoming wall again, warmer, as if would remembered your lean forehead. You touch the lantern and feel the frost leaf pulse your traded day settling as soil where a gentler hour will root. You open your mouth just enough to taste the air pear, salt, rosemary, faint iron of an old nail keeping a friendly knot on a hill. Down the hall a chair slides by itself a finger's width, making room for whoever walks with careful. People you do not invite, you do not deny. You let the chair finish its small journey. The chalk moons will be waiting, seam unclosed. Star patient, you will set the lantern within. And tonight the name will lie outside the mouth like a loyal animal choosing the mat meant for sleep. Breathe, int out, slower, ribs counting spoons, feet remembering gates that swing without hinges. The air shake behind the fading door exhales once more, blessing your restraint with weather instead of words. And you walk toward the threshold. That is sometimes river and sometimes road. Letting both be right. Letting the night keep you safely between them. Night loosens its knot, and you loosen yours, laying red thread and black along the floor like quiet rivers that refuse to be maps. The chalk moons on your threshold are pale. You refresh their rims. You leave the seam open always. A seam so fortune can breathe. The lantern waits within the inner circle. Your wintered breath turning in cracked glass. Calm since the small trade. On the table, the basin of still water. Receives window and chair, and the soft idea of the door that wanted to be a mouth, all resting on its skin. You pour a thin shore of salt along the boards. One line before you, one behind, a cross line. Between the lines, you set 3 witnesses coin from the well, a willow pebble, a pear stem from the feast, from Your shoal, the travel mirror, hums content to be oval and not a door tonight. You slide it under the basin, glass turned upward to carry whatever must look at itself. In the faint reflection, your later self nods once steady. Wind red thread, once round your wrist, once round the lantern's handle, once round the basin's lip, a promise with 3 hearts. Black thread follows wrist, handle, lip shadow, sharing the work with color. Both trails lean toward the chalk seam. A path out, if anything must leave as kindness rather than escape. Never speak that name out loud. The pantry warning. Is your breath now, so you do not speak? You. Pour. First a little winter from the lantern enough to cool the water to listening. Then the memory you choose to trade, not the shoe not already kept in frost. A deeper ribbon, choose the color of an hour before rain, slate and shy greens, roofs thoughtful, pears turning the room to hush, dear, but not a pillar. The house will stand if that color walks away, and perhaps it will teach the name to love quiet more than mouths. Hold the ribbon behind the heart, where the inward window lives. Guide it down the arm, through thread, into water, without words. The basin darkens a shade. Salt brightens tiny bells that refuse to ring. A current travels thread to thread, wrist to ribs, lantern to mirror to chalk, back to wrist, a circuit of courtesies. Now the name comes to your edge, not letters, not sound, only a pressure shaped like a house seeking foundation. It tastes the salt and steps between the lines rather than across. Respectful tonight. Near the basin the water lifts, one ripple answering a knock it has expected all its life. Bow mouth closed, tongue high and soft, hand steady. If you must live near me, breathe without voice. Live in this water and glass. Live in threads and in the space between lines. Do not live between my teeth. Do not borrow my breath when it is meant for sleep. The mirror deepens its hum, your later self almost. On time. Lower the lantern crack turned inward, so winter knows where home is. Frost stirs inside the glass, like pages deciding whether to be birds. Something like a smile brushes the basin frost without bite then. The water stills so completely, you feel it in your wrists. The name settles, not captured. Kept a guest given the right room. Red thread warms, black thread cools. Balance found. Pinch salt and draw smaller circles within the chalk ring. One, then one, until a pair well gathers at the center. Leave the tiniest seam, a hair's width. Mercy only you. And what must pass will notice. The feather points to seam, and window playing compass once. Time thins while you work. The bell returns to sleep. The well remembers rain. The archive breathes its wool. A bone charm turns to face. The basin, and stops. A little door. watching another little door. What remains to trade? The cooled air asks along your wrists. One last ribbon, the tiny tug of your own name just before waking. The pull that draws the mouth toward habit. Safe to give. You will still be you without the tug. And the name will learn to sleep through it. Exhale that tug into the lantern. Frost leaves ripple. The crack gathers it like a stitch. Lift your gaze. Mirror and basin agree your name's shadow has learned to lie down. Now wind the threads back. Loop for basin. Loop for lantern. Loop for wrist. A final easy bow at the seam. Salt holds. Chalk moons breathe. Coin, pebble. Stem keep their posts little sentries against accident. Say nothing and everything listens. Dawn is late. When it arrives, it forgets its colors. Roof and sky and pear and shall become one careful shade. The town accepts the mistake. Look into the basin and see the traded color folded at the bottom like a sleeping scarf. Absence making room for quiet. Test the world by naming without. Mouth, chair, window, crow, archivist. Each word arrives as breath and stops at your lips. Offense of kindness, even language respects. Your jaw becomes sure at ebb. Your ribs accept a slower tide. Pour winter back from the lantern one sip, then another, until the glass holds only simple room air. Lift the basin where dawn can watch. Smooth the salt with your palm. But leave the lines clear, the work will go on while you rest. The mirror tucks under your shawl, hum reduced to necklace weight. Before you close the house tie red and black in a loose loop over the latch, no biting, not only a promise laid lightly on wood. Check the chalk moons, add one last thin ring, leave the seam open. Always open. Place the coin under the sill, the pebble in the window track, the pear stem on the blank ledger page. 3 witnesses that never speaked outside the lane, and skies share one careful shade. Birds pass like slow thoughts. You breathe. The name sleeps in water. Your breath returns. When called, your mouth remains a gentle door that opens only for lullabies. Walk into pale morning, lighter by one color, heavier by one hush, if anyone asks. No one will smile with lips closed and point to the seam where fortune comes and goes without bruising. The vow has roots now. The town will water them, and you will nap where shade is kind, carrying a lantern that brightens without brightening, and a name that will never learn. Your mouth. You return to the room where promises breathe, and the room returns to you. Curtains rest, floors remember your pace. The lantern keeps its winter like a small moon cupped in your ribs. Outside, birds slow themselves. The town faces morning and chooses quiet for you now. You have given what you could spare, and received exactly the hush you needed. Lie back now. Let the spine become shoreline. Let thoughts be boats untied. From the dock, each exhale drifts them. Farther each inhale brings a gentle tide. Your tongue is a folded ribbon. Your teeth are fence posts. The gate is closed with kindness rather than lock. The name sleeps elsewhere. In water, in glass, in the space between soft lines of salt, and your breath belongs to you again. If any corners still hold a little weather, turn your face toward them and nod. Imagine the chalk moons glowing under your bed, a seam left open for fortune to visit without bruising. Imagine threads tied loosely over your heart, red for warmth, black for rest, bow knots that fall away when you dream. The day can keep itself. The kettle remembers how to hush. The crows will carry nothing until you ask. Behind your eyelids, rooms arrange themselves into softer rooms. A meadow flows through the square. A well remembers rain. A bell chooses silence. Every thought grows round at the edges. Every edge becomes weather. Let your breath count spoons. 4 in, 4 out. Slower. Slower still. Let your hands uncurl. Let your feet forgive their roads. You are carried the last little, distanced by what you did not say, by the seam you left open, by the lantern that brightens without brightening. The tale has ended. Now sleep. If you can, I'll be just beyond the veil, listening.